I decided that I was going to master the weakest subclass in the game. Now the first question I must ask would be, how do I determine the weakest subclass inside of PvP? Well, I decided to look at Trials Report to see the usage of each subclass and go from there. While usage doesn't necessarily reflect the strength of a subclass one-to-one, it definitely does need to be taken into account. So basically this left me with about 6 subclasses that were all in the 1 to 2% range. I immediately decided that I was going to eliminate all Titan subclasses because just being a Titan gives you a barricade, and that already disqualifies you from being the worst subclass in my opinion. So it really came down between Arc Hunter, Arc Warlock, and Strand Warlock. I already know that Arc Warlock is very good. I have used it a ton, so it was pretty easy to eliminate that. I do not think that that subclass is that bad. So really it came down to the Arc Hunter or the Strand Warlock. Ultimately, it was kind of a toss-up, but I have seen some very good players play Arc Hunter. I have used it myself. I think it can be pretty good, especially with some of the melee builds. So ultimately, that narrowed it down to the Broodweaver Strand Warlock. Now, I have never played this subclass inside of PvP. I don't even know how it all works. It was going to be completely new for me. I had to learn everything. And yeah, the subclass, I understand why it has low usage. It is bad. Cheesy, but bad. So now my journey would begin to get the most out of this subclass that I could. So as any skillful Destiny player does, I started with some build crafting. Right from the start, I knew I wanted to use the Weave Walker aspect as I felt like this was the most unique part of the class. I also felt like it offered the most potential to make some really clutch plays. After this, I messed around with a few other options, but ultimately I decided that the Weaver's Call was the next best choice. This would mean that, while I will admit it is a bit cringe, it would mean that I was leaning into the Threadling spam. I know, I'm part of the problem. I grabbed the Thread of Propagation for some extra strength, the Thread of Binding for some extra resilience, and most importantly, the Thread of Evolution. This would give me 10 intellect and it would buff my Threadlings even further. Next, I needed to find my exotic armor of choice for my build. I started with the Swarmers, but I ultimately decided that it wasn't worth it and that I was going to use Eye of Another World, the exotic helmet. This would be buffing my grenade, melee, and rift ability. This was the stat distribution I ended up with. This could probably be tweaked further. I don't know if this is necessarily ideal. I do have good warlock armor actually, but that wasn't what I set out to do. I wasn't trying to make some crazy build that no one has used before or anything like that. I was just trying to master the subclass. I may not be the best player out there, but I wanted to see what I could do. So I headed into quick play. After a few games, as I had suspected, I realized that the Weave Walk was definitely going to be the main appeal of this subclass. The fact that you can become nearly invincible while building up an entire army of Threadlings, whom I promptly named Horus. Dude, I have figured out the name for at least one of my Threadlings.
Oh, what is it?
One is named Horus.
Horus.
Yes.
Well, I want to call Neville.
Neville? We can do that. We can do Neville. That. I feel like these are very British names in general. I feel like Horus is British. I don't know. Just kind of spoke to me. Actually, you know what? No,
guy. He's one of the
no offense, but the Threadlings would be British. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Being able to send out an army of horses, which appeared to be up to 8 at a time, plus a grenade if you have no morals, that puts out about 11 Threadlings at once, which was honestly so much fun, even though it probably cost me my soul. So during my quick play journey, I started to see the light. I was understanding just how much potential the Broodweaver actually has inside of PvP. Not only can Horus jump enemies 11v1, but while you're in a fight, you can also send a Threadling out to hunt your enemies even behind cover. Like, you cannot hide from Horus, so this definitely tips the gunfights in your favor. I also quickly learned that the Threadling grenade was insane for cleaning up weakened enemies. Oftentimes, if I had someone low, I could just throw the grenade and I could just lead, as it seemed nearly impossible for the enemy to escape Horus's clutches. So after more hours of Destiny quick play than I would wish upon even my worst enemy, I decided it was time to test my limits. I decided Trials would be the ultimate test. But not only that, I decided I would try Trials late Monday night during demon hours. So That's when there's only 2 teams online, you know, and they're both cheating. Yeah, during that time, that's when I decided I would do this. I figured if I could make this work here, then as far as I'm concerned, I have mastered this class to the best of my ability. So taking my experience from quick play, I hopped into the Trials playlist in search of the mythical gold chest. Trials was a different beast than quick play though, as everyone in the 3-stack pool was mostly gunning for it. Almost every lobby was filled with PK Void Titans and other meta choices. However, this environment truly brought out the best of the Strand Warlock. We even started to come up with some rather creative ways to win.
In the cubby.
It works every time, dude.
Okay.
It's literally free.
It'd be the saddest, most desperate thing I've ever seen, but we're fine, we'll learn. We don't like it.
They don't like the strat. I eventually learned that the more melee charges you have built up, apparently the faster it charges, so letting a few stack up before weave walking was definitely the optimal way to play. It is basically a get out of jail free card like no other. You can basically tank any and all damage. You really are nearly invincible. However, this is countered by the specific meta right now at the time of this video. Unfortunately, conditional does still freeze you, instantly killing you. And Void Titan can shoulder charge you, which for some reason suppresses you. I don't know why that is necessary. Shoulder charge is already very good, but it does suppress you and it does knock you out of the weave walk. You're basically dead. So the current meta is definitely not in the favor of the Broodweaver, but I was still able to begin to start making some plays that you really can't do on any other subclass due to the survivability of the weave walk. So with all of my newly gained experience on the class, we were able to complete several flawless lighthouse cards and visit the mythical gold chest. So you may be wondering, what is the optimal way to play this class in my opinion? Well, when you load into the match for the first round or so, you want to save your melee charges. These will give you your weave walk. However, you want them to stack, as I'm told this charges them faster, and it definitely seems so just anecdotally. So round 1, don't use your melee charge. Once you build them up, you'll want to start using your weave walk to gain information. You can 3-peek people around corners. I never really thought about this, but it puts you in third person. So I would 3-peek someone and then I knew where they were and I could just fly out and snipe them, things like that. It's actually very important, very cheesy, don't get me wrong. This whole class is cheesy, but I mean, it's Destiny 2. You can literally see them around the corner and you already know where they are. Also, you don't even have to go around the corner. You can just stand in the open. They cannot kill you. Like, you can just eat sniper bullets all day. It doesn't even matter. You just laugh at snipers. You can gain information for free. Another use of the weave walk aspect is that you can also try to waste ammo. You can tank sniper bullets, you can tank Jotuns, you can tank grenades, you can tank heavy ammo. You can really survive almost anything, so it is a good way to actually try to waste ammo. I think this can be very valuable, especially if a round is dragging out. Overall, the ability just has so much utility. The Threadling Grenade is very good for cleaning up kills and also flushing people out. That's another thing the Rift can do as well. Trials is all about map control these days because of the zones. So if they have control of the map, you can put your Rift down and maybe throw a grenade. That's 11 Threadlings that they have to run from. Sometimes they can shoot a lot at once, but most of the time they have to run, and that will just flush them out of the point. You can go and take map control and then you can hold from there. That is definitely an effective strategy. It does take some coordination though. And also, here is like the most advanced use I found for it. If you have a Rift and you send out 8 Threadlings, I'm not gonna lie, it nearly breaks people's screens. Like, it is just a giant mess of green bugs everywhere, and I think it actually kind of blinds the enemies. Like, there is so much green and damage and sound that it's kind of like a flashbang. I definitely noticed this, and it definitely is a thing, so keep that in mind. It is something that you can play around. Now, the one thing I do not like about this subclass is the super. It just feels so inconsistent, and honestly, it's the main part of the subclass that I struggled to understand. Sometimes it would kill 4 people that I didn't even see on my screen. Sometimes it would miss one single person that I was really trying to get, and sometimes it would break bubbles, sometimes it wouldn't break the bubbles, sometimes it would kill the person in the bubbles, sometimes it just did nothing. I really could not figure out what it did. I ultimately decided that if you're trying to kill like just players, it's best to be way up high, like in the sky, as far as you can, as possible almost. That seemed to make it the most consistent. But if you're trying to break a bubble, you need to be close, and but you can't be too close, but you want to be close. Like, it's so finicky with the bubbles, but you can break them. But I will say most of the time I did not break them. But the good news is, even if you don't break the bubble, it is actually weak enough to where you can shoot it and break it. We manually broke a few of them, so it still kind of worked. But yeah, the super was definitely a pain point. I probably still need to figure that out a bit. Overall, when it hits, the super is very good, but it's just inconsistent, so be careful. So overall, let me know if you like this type of video. I'm gonna try to put a lot of effort into it. It was just supposed to be fun, and then hopefully some knowledge at the end for those of you that want that. But yeah, leave a like and subscribe if this does well. I'll probably start to use this format of video from here on out. So as always, I'm Awake, and I'll see you guys next time.